Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's last post ceremony. My name is Lexa Peterson, and joining us today from the Royal Australian Air Force is leading aircraft woman Sarah Dean. We warmly welcome the family of Lieutenant Lachlan John Caskey, whose story will be told shortly. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that love and support them. The live stream of this ceremony is made possible by the Returned and Services League of Australia and the RSL and Services Clubs Association. We welcome members who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the pool of reflection by family and visitors to the memorial. If you're able, please stand and join in singing the national anthem.
Australians, oh, let us rejoice, for we are one and free. We've golden soil and wealth for toil. Our home is got by sea. Our land abounds in nature's gifts of beauty, rich and rare. In history's page, let every stage advance Australia fair. In joyful strains, then let us sing, advance Australia fair.
Visitors who are able, please be seated. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed at the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record that they themselves made. Tonight, we will read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 103,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and on operations for more than a century. But first we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths or floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the pool of reflection.
Today we remember and pay tribute to Lieutenant Lachlan John Caskey. Lachlan John Caskey was born in June 1870 in Spring Creek, south of Toowoomba in Queensland. Known as Jack, he was the sixth of 8 surviving children born to Thomas and Marjorie Caskey. As Jack's father died when Jack was 5 years old, he and his siblings worked hard to support their widowed mother. Jack attended the nearby Spring Creek School, where he was a keen pupil and sportsman. On leaving school, he trained to become a teacher, eventually moving to Brisbane and teaching at Leichhardt Street Boys' School. In October 1899, the two Boer republics of Transvaal and the Orange Free State declared war on Britain and invaded the British South African colonies. A series of British defeats in South Africa caused a wave of patriotism in British colonies around the world, and all of the Australian colonies raised contingents of soldiers to send to the war. The Boer forces were all mounted on horseback. To counter Boer mobility, British commanders soon realised that they required mounted infantry who could live in the bush. In the Australian colonies, these soldiers became known as Bushmen. Queensland raised several contingents of Bushmen. In early 1901, Caskey volunteered for military service and was accepted into the colony's 5th contingent. His unit was the Queensland Imperial Bushmen, in which the men were paid by the British government rather than by the colony. After initial training, the 5th Queensland Imperial Bushmen departed Brisbane on the transport ship Templemore in March 1901. Arriving at Port Elizabeth in the Eastern Cape Colony, the unit travelled by train with their horses northward to the town of Petersburg. There, the Queenslanders joined a British column of mounted soldiers and began patrolling the vast South African plains known as the Veldt in search of Boer forces. During this stage of the South African War, or Boer War, Boer commanders had taken to prosecuting a guerrilla war against the British and their supply lines. The 5th contingent was constantly fighting skirmishes against the Boers, occasionally with heavy casualties. In late April and early May, 14 men of the contingent were wounded in action during operations south of Pretoria. In September, the Queensland Imperial Bushmen were operating along the Caledon River, south of the town of Weepener. On the 27th of September 1901, Lieutenants Caskey and Alfred Pooley led a group of soldiers across the river at Macquarie Drift, chasing a small Boer force. Once over the river, the Australians rode into a force of some 50 Boers waiting in ambush. During the fighting, Caskey was shot and killed. Jack Caskey was 31 years old. 3 other Imperial Bushmen were killed in the skirmish: Lieutenant Pooley and Privates George White and Benjamin Milner. They were initially buried on a farm near where the fight had taken place, but the war graves were later consolidated in the cemetery of the nearby town of Van Standenrus. Caskey was mentioned in the dispatches of British Commander-in-Chief Lord Kitchener, who noted Caskey's great gallantry during the operation. Caskey was survived by his mother and some of his siblings. In May 1902, with these family members in attendance, the Queensland Minister for Education unveiled a memorial pillar in memory of Caskey in Toowong Cemetery in Brisbane. A plaque was unveiled at Leichhardt Street Boys' School, where Caskey had taught. At Spring Creek School, which he had attended as a child, his former schoolmates erected a memorial. The inscription read, "An endearing, upright lad, an eminent teacher, a gallant and brave officer, a faithful and obedient until death." Lieutenant Lachlan John Caskey is listed on the Roll of Honour on my right, among almost 600 Australians who died while serving in the South African War. His photograph is displayed today beside the pool of reflection. This is but one of the many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Lieutenant Lachlan John Caskey, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
Please stand for the reading of the ode and sounding of the last post.
They shall not grow old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them. Lest we forget.
We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Poziere or in the low scrub at Gallipoli, with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over, but in Australia they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, that concludes the last post ceremony. On behalf of our director, staff and volunteers, thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial today. We wish you all a very pleasant evening.